it's like the most impressive restaurant in Syracuse is Postabilities, but it's not even close to being the best.
Right.
But it is by far the most impressive restaurant. What they've done with it since the day it opened, which I was friends.
You do got to be a little closer than that, though.
Oh yeah.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
We are live now.
Oh, we are.
Yeah,
okay.
and don't grab this if you can help it. Grab it like.
Yep. I'm good.
This arm will move.
I'm good.
Well, it'll move wherever you want, but yeah. So glad we got that working after some technical difficulties. Thank you for being here, Eric. I appreciate
You're welcome.
it. You were just talking about Prime best. I quite enjoy a nice steak, so I got to check out Prime, huh?
You definitely, yeah. The owner's a great operator, and it's a very friendly place, and the food is first rate in terms of going to a steakhouse.
Gotcha.
All the things you'd expect to be good at a steakhouse are really good.
Gotcha. I don't go out to eat a ton. I do like to cook. You're good. Don't worry about it. I do like to cook, so I don't go out to eat too often. Fiance and I just got a gift card to Scotch and Sirloin.
Sure.
Is that any good?
It's a Syracuse tradition. It
That's
just
not what I asked.
No, I'm gonna give you an answer. They've had a change in menu in the last few years. They had a very, very fine chef whose name was Jean, and he just recently died a couple weeks ago. But it's a great place to go before or after an event. They have a great bar with a circular fire pit indoors, and it's a Syracuse institution, and they have a great steak teriyaki.
Steak teriyaki.
Yeah, and a wonderful salad bar with pumpernickel bread.
Ooh, sounds tasty.
It's a standby for a lot of people.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have to check it out in the coming weeks. It's over by Shoppingtown, right?
It's in Shoppingtown.
It is in Shoppingtown.
Well,
I didn't know there was
what's
anything
left of Shoppingtown.
I was gonna say I didn't know there was anything other than ghosts in Shoppingtown.
The theater's there for a little while longer, I think.
Okay.
And maybe some hair salons and nail places and some things like that, but that's about it.
Yeah, that place is. It's funny. My mom grew up in. She went to FM, and
my kids went to FM.
Oh yeah. No kidding.
Partially, yeah. I went to JD.
JD, okay. So right around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. She has memories of Shoppingtown being entirely different.
Oh, sure. No, it was the place. And it had a great opportunity to be the place in the east side of town if they had done something earlier on while Destiny, previously Carousel Center, was being developed. But, the Carousel Destiny dominates the retail market in Syracuse.
For sure. Yeah. That's
and the national food market in Syracuse.
What do you mean?
National casual dining.
Oh, as far as the restaurants they have in there. Okay. Really? People go to the mall that much for dinner? Like, I don't know. Who wants to go to a mall for dinner?
Well,
people?
I don't know.
Other than me.
A place like, some of the places that are there don't stay open if they're not doing 12, 14, $16 million a year in business.
Mm.
So, yes, the answer is yes. People go there. They flock there.
Because they have to be good, I'm guessing then, right?
They have to be who they are. People like them for who they are. So the menus are accessible. People trust it. It's some of the food is very good. Some of it is fairly ordinary. But, a lot of people in most communities find it easy to trust and go to national chains because they know what they're getting.
It's comfort, familiarity.
And a lot of the, some of the national chain Italian places or steak places, the prices are very good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great for people who don't have unlimited amounts of money to spend to go out to dinner.
Yeah.
So they're viable options along with the mom and pop fine dining or casual dining or diners that appear in cities like Syracuse.
I would so much rather go to a local place than a chain. Like just to not only support the area and the local people who own it, but I don't know. I don't mind paying a couple extra bucks for that. Like I mentioned to you earlier before we went live, I go to the market every Saturday with my fiance, and we get most of our groceries there, and we pick things up at Aldi and Wegmans. You can't get everything there, but it's nice to just support
In the summer,
the
you
local
can get
scene,
everything.
right?
In the summer, you can get
You can get about everything in the
that's
summer.
worthwhile getting.
You might have to elbow some people to fight for it, but in the winter it's nice. You can park between shed A and C, where that gap is, where they have like all those flower vendors
Right,
there in the
yeah.
summer. You just zip right in through that side door, zip right out, good to go.
Yeah, in another month, it'll start getting very, very busy again.
It will.
We've had a very good early winter market at the regional market for our bakery, and we've been really happy with the response because it's where you get to see a lot of people on a regular basis. And in the restaurant and food industry, there's no better advertising than word of mouth.
FaceTime, it's huge. It's a podcast sponsored by the Scratch House Bakery. So
Scratch
Bakehouse.
Bakehouse.
I'm sorry, I knew I
That's
was going to
okay.
screw that up.
That's okay. You know what? Even we screw it up sometimes.
All right, cool. That makes me feel better. And actually, I had been in the Stoop a few times, even though I mentioned I've only been in Syracuse for about 2 years. I've been in the Stoop a couple times for coffee because I used to work around the corner, corner of Franklin and
West Fayette?
yes, yeah, in that building there at Terkeet.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I
My younger
down there for coffee once
daughter
again.
worked for Turkey as an intern, and then for a while after, for about a year and a half.
okay, nice. Recently or
Well, not that recently because she's in New York now for 2 years, and she was in Boston for 2 years. So
I missed her then.
yeah,
Very cool. Yeah, I liked the
that's a great company.
yeah.
They're really tremendous in what they do.
They're
Turkey.
huge. They have grown so much.
They're very smart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were ahead of. I mentioned SEO before we went live, and the restaurants and who shows up on Google when you search best restaurants
Sure.
isn't necessarily the best restaurants. It's the one who's, paid Terkeet for the most backlinks to their website. But yeah, no, they were ahead of the curve. I forget when Mac and Pat there started, but they I want to say it was like early 2000s or
Yeah.
even late 90s. They might have been.
It could be. It
They've
might
got
be
like
before
200
I knew
people
about it.
now.
No, they're a big international presence now.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of business.
They're great at what they do, and they're great people.
Yeah. So, Scratch Bakehouse. Said it right that time.
Scratch Bakehouse.
You've
It's
got
the
two locations, right?
reincarnation of the Stoop Bakery Cafe. So right now we have one location because I've just recently agreed to sell my building at 311 West Fayette, where the Stoop and the Stoop Bakery was originally located. And we're relocating the cafe from that location to 629 West Fayette Street in the next 6 weeks. We're in the process of doing that now.
Okay, nice.
So we will have two locations,
That's not too far.
which is a cafe with parking on West Fayette Street, 629, and then we have the bakery that has a retail counter at 446 East Brighton.
Okay. Parking. That's nice. One thing I do not like about going downtown is that I have to pay for parking.
Well, it's one of the reasons that I decided to sell the building and move the bakery.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I mean, it's more accessible to people, and Fayette Street is a very busy street.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy access to downtown, easy access to Tip Hill, Onondaga Hill.
Yep.
And it's great to have 15 dedicated spaces, and then there's actually plenty of street parking as well.
That's very nice. Yeah, whenever I have to meet somebody, like central location type of thing, I always suggest Freedom Espresso on Solar Street because they have all that parking off street.
Well, I've known the
now
people at Freedom.
I'll have to,
No, I've known the people at Freedom of Espresso forever, and they're kind enough that they buy our bread and baked goods to sell in their Fayetteville location.
How many places do you sell your baked goods to?
Well, right now we sell out 3 times a week at Green Star Natural Food Store in Ithaca. We're at the Syracuse Co-op. We're at 11 Waters. We're at the European specialty store in Westvale, and we're negotiating with about 2 or 3 others
Nice.
in the near future.
Very cool.
And then we're at the market, the regional market Saturdays, Chadet. We're at the winter, and we'll be at the summer market at the Fayetteville Mall, and we'll be at the summer market in Hamilton.
Gotcha. So before we were talking about restaurant industry more generally, and you said it was one of the hardest things you've ever done. The hardest thing you've ever done. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question in my mind of all the things I've done, and I've done a lot of different things, interesting things, some easy, some difficult. The restaurant business is the most challenging. I would use the word challenging as opposed to hardest, even though I use the word hardest originally.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, law school, you've done a lot of different things. I mean, why? I'm very interested to know why you think the restaurant industry and operating in that space has been the most difficult.
Well,
challenging. Sorry.
First of all, I think it always starts with hiring, training, and keeping good employees.
Mm-hmm.
It's a business that has a lot of transitional employment. I look back at my records a few weeks ago. In 1 year, we went through 48 dishwashers at the Stoop.
What?
Yeah,
it's almost one a week.
It's not.
That's nuts.
It's not unusual. Well, we had more than one dishwasher, but we went through 48 in one. And so, but the people generally in the restaurant industry who work in the industry, they're interesting, they're fun, they're thoughtful. For the most part, they really care about people. I think they have a lot of circumstances that make it good for them to move from place to place more often than maybe in some other industries. And then sometimes you have some people that work in the restaurant industry that are just hiding out for some reason, one reason or another, in one way or another. So it starts with the labor force is challenging. The quality of the food and doing all the things that are important and necessary to have safe food practices and healthy food, finding food that you want to use to meet your menu that doesn't make the menu too expensive for people to afford.
Right.
We were what's commonly referred to, although I hate the term, a farm-to-table restaurant in our last iteration. And a lot of people don't realize that it's much more expensive to buy from local growers than it is to buy from regional distributors.
Right. Economies of scale.
So if you want to have fresh products, whether it's in a bakery or in a restaurant, you have to make a commitment to controlling price really, really well because there's only so much people will spend on any given item.
Right.
So there are those things, and there's the physical plant, the health code compliance, and we haven't even talked about having a menu that is affordable, having a menu that people like, having a menu that people will want to come and eat.
Yeah. That's niche.
Several
I'm assuming,
times.
Right?
Well, not necessarily. In Syracuse, we find a lot of our successful restaurants are Italian or they're pubs. And so there's nothing niche about them per se, but of course every restaurant wants to be known for its own identity, and in that sense, it's niche.
Yeah. Because, I mean, like you were saying before, you were describing not Eden, but the other one.
St. Urban.
That they just do everything very specifically, you said. Like, intentionally, you mean? Like,
intentionally.
The entire experience, aside from the food, is just crafted very well?
Yeah, I think you can say that about both places, Eden and St. Urban. They both have a philosophy of food. They both have a philosophy of human interaction. They both have a philosophy of the economies of their restaurants. They both have a philosophy specifically about what kind of food they make and what they make it with. And there's different as they can be, but they're both extraordinary restaurants.
They do blind taste testing also. You think?
I don't. I don't have even though I know the guys at Eden. I don't know all their internal practices.
Fair enough. I feel like that's something that should. I mean, you want to create the best product, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we did it in any place that I've been involved in. We've done a lot of blind tasting because it's surprising. You can surprise yourself what you really like if you're not influenced by outside factors.
Right.
And we're all influenced by outside factors.
We all have those biases.
So it's really a benefit. It's an aid to finding the best products, at least in my world. It's an aid to finding the best products. To, have 5 items of something you're going to use regularly or even for one time, and try to make sure that you have a consensus of what you want and why you want it after you've had the blind testing.
Right. So how did, because Scratch Bakehouse started with the Stoop, right?
It's I'm going to say it's the stepchild of
the stepchild?
Stoop. Yes.
Move from reincarnation to stepchild?
Yeah. Same thing.
How did you first get into that industry in the first place? Like, how did the Stoop first come to be?
Well, I'll give you the short version.
Sure.
I bought a building on West Fayette Street very early on, 1991, I think it was. And I couldn't find any tenants that I was interested in leasing to, that I felt comfortable leasing my building to. And so I love pizza as much as anything else in the world, and Armory Square, which was in its infancy, didn't have any reasonably priced food in it. So I said, let's open a pizza shop.
When was this?
This was 1992.
Okay.
And we did. We had a great run of many years.
What's pizza
it was
shop
easy.
called?
It's Slices.
Slices.
And so,
I like it.
And we did a lot of late night business from 10 o'clock till 3 o'clock in the morning, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. We were
after Kitty Hoynes lets out.
Yeah, well, Kitty Hoynes wasn't there when we opened. It was the hotel. I forget the name of it now, but Kitty Hoynes is a great place, and they were. By the way, that's a great owner and somebody who's committed to this community. David Hoynes is just a fabulous person to have in this community, and what he does with his restaurant is spectacular. And we should all be very happy that he's here.
Syracuse staple,
but his what they do with the St. Baldrick charitable operation that is coming up in the near future, they raise an incredible, when I say incredible, $500,000
really?
Every year or more, I think sometimes for this. And they're an institution in this city that should be supported. But when I say them, I mean Kitty Hoynes.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of bars early on, and people wanted pizza.
True story.
We gave it to them, and we made, I thought, pretty good pizza. So, but it seemed so easy, and it was so successful, and it was only on the first floor of the building. I said, well, the other thing I love is tequila. Why don't I open a tequila bar on the second floor? And that's what the Stoop turned into originally.
Really?
So that was 94, and that was open between 94 and 2006. When 2006, I closed both restaurants because I was too busy practicing law 80 hours a week, and I just couldn't keep up with everything.
I can imagine. So you take the most difficult thing you've done in your life, multiply it by 2, and then add 80 hours of practicing law on top of it.
Yeah. So I was a busy guy.
That's craziness. How did you even manage that?
Well,
like,
I loved both things with a passion. I love the law, even though I'm not practicing anymore, and I haven't practiced since a long time now. It's probably 15 years. I haven't practiced to the public. But, and I love food, and I grew up in a household with, the consummate Jewish mom, where everything we did was centered around food and the importance of hospitality and the graciousness of having visitors in your house and how they're treated, and the joy of food and the joy of eating and the joy of the community of the table. And so it really wasn't that unexpected that I would, when I had the chance, that I would be drawn to that, because it's still something really, really important to me.
Yeah. Food brings people together.
It does.
As does coffee, right?
As does coffee. And it's, in any community, you have a great opportunity, if you're in hospitality, to use that physical plant, to use that engagement for the purposes of assisting social causes in your community. And so, along with running a restaurant, it was always important to me, whenever we were operating any food establishment, is that we made it available to people so that we could enhance socially motivated not-for-profit companies in the community.
Interesting.
Either through fundraisers or giving over our space to them,
right,
or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So it was doubly enriching for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, do you guys have nonprofits host events, or?
Yeah, we do it. We did it a lot in the restaurant. It's a little bit more difficult. Well, right now we can't do it in the bakery because we don't have any seating until we open up the cafe.
Okay.
Where we'll be able to do events again.
Right.
But it's a little bit harder. It's more limited in a bakery than it is a restaurant. Restaurants, you can do breakfast, lunch, dinner. You can do catered events. You can do special. Bakeries are a little bit more limited how people would like to use them for those kinds of purposes. But we still, we involve ourselves in every silent auction that we can for charities. Okay. We involve ourselves in catering food-related fundraising events. A little while ago we did an event at Millionaire that we bring our excess goods over to the rescue mission
Nice.
Every other day or so. So, you do what you can. I mean, I think that that's endemic in the restaurant industry. There are a lot of people that feel exactly that way.
Yeah.
And they do whatever because the people who are in the restaurant business, many of them, if not most, have a feeling of wanting to improve the lives of people,
right,
to give them joy. Well, there are a lot of different ways to give people joy.
Yeah. And just one simple thing, bringing people together. Just like food, just like coffee, and just like toilet paper. So, by the way, this is just tissues. This is not from the bathroom directly, don't worry. This is just, we don't buy tissues. We just toilet paper.
It reminds me of a birthday gift I got this past December.
Which was?
It was a roll of toilet paper that had a particular famous person's face on it, repetitively. I'm not at this. Given what's going on in the world, I'm not going to say who it was.
We can only guess. That's funny. That's very funny. I'm sorry, just an aside. You
brought up the toilet paper.
I sure did. No.
Yeah,
I'll take full responsibility for that.
Okay.
Any ramifications, you can come back to me. Talking about bringing the community together, we're also on the board of trustees at the Everson.
Yes.
It's funny. I just happened to notice that on your Instagram profile. I'm on the board of directors of the Believe in Syracuse organization.
Sure.
And they're actually looking at doing a event at the Everson coming up. And
it's a great event space.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable event space.
Somebody sent in pictures of the place. I'd never been in there, and it looked immaculate.
It is
very cool.
We've been blessed by having a really proactive board of trustees the last 3 or 4 years in particular. who hired a spectacular president and director, and the museum has evolved from just being an internationally known I.M. Pei building. It was the architect I.M. Pei's first museum, and he's known in his lifetime as one of the great architects of our age, and in particular, designer of museums.
Really?
So the physical plant of the Everson is incredibly important architecturally, and in the last 4 or 5 years, it's gone from a place that has lessened its footprint to a place that is once again a museum of national importance. And it's a place that Syracusans should be very proud of and should support. We have a great collection of contemporary art, but what it's known for all over the world is we have what most people believe is the finest collection of American pottery. And we now have a relatively new curator who is generally considered to be the guy, and with our executive director and our board, and just great things are happening there all the time.
Yeah.
And it's really one of the last vestiges of original culture that survived in Syracuse, and we need to support it. Yeah, we're just working on a committee to reopen what used to be a very popular place, which was a little cafe in the museum. So we're hopeful that we're going to be able to accomplish that in the near future. We have a very prestigious national architectural firm working with us.
Nice.
Who won the process of selection process for that purpose. They're from Los Angeles.
Wow, nice. So you're still involved with them then?
On this, yeah, well, I'm always going to be involved in the
It's
museum.
one of those lifetime membership things.
Whether I'm a trustee or not. My mom was a pianist and an artist, and the art is very important to me. I have a daughter who is a director at the Gagosian Gallery in Los Angeles, so it's sort of a family thing, and the people at the Everson are just so great, and every day working so hard for our community that anything I can do to even give a little inch of assistance, I'm happy to do.
You've got your toes dipped in a lot of things in Syracuse, it sounds like. As far as, everything with the Stoop and Scratch Bakery and the restaurant industry in general, art, law. You got a lot of tricks up your sleeve.
Well, I was raised to be involved.
Yeah.
And, I don't subscribe to the fact that, you get to an age and you somehow just melt into the sunset.
Stop caring.
I want to care. I want to work hard.
Yeah.
I want to work, period, at something. So, I still do mentoring. I taught at Syracuse University, both at the Management School and the College of Law for many years. And once I took, reverse sabbatical and taught full time at the Management School. And I love the opportunity to do anything that helps anyone reach their highest self, the place where they want to be and need to be and are happy. And that's a hard thing to do in life. It's not easy. You need all the help you can get sometimes. And so I've enjoyed teaching for many years, and I still mentor regularly with people I meet who might need a little push or a little pull or a little assistance.
Really?
Yeah, so.
That's wild. That's an awesome thing to strive for. I think everyone should think like that.
Well, no, I don't agree that.
No?
Everyone is their own self.
Yeah.
I tell a story. We have an unbelievable institution in Syracuse called On Point for College.
Okay.
And Ginny Donahue, who's emeritus there now, started it, I think, 18 years ago or so. And in that period of time, It's touched the lives of almost 9,000 kids who were helped to go to college, who never in their lifetime would have gone to college without the help of On Point for College. And what they've done has been tremendous. And I remember having a conversation with Ginny, and I said, Ginny, I would really love to be able to do something. You've done something so great. It's unbelievable what you've accomplished. And she reminded me of something that's true in entrepreneurship, which is, she said, well, this was my thing. You'll find your thing, whether it's big or small, by whoever's standards, but it'll be your thing, and that will be enough. And it's best advice I ever got, because you have to be who you are, and you can only be who you are. You can't be genuine trying to be something that somebody else was.
Yep.
And a cornerstone to joy and to happiness that's enduring is being honest and genuine with yourself, authentic, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like everyone does, on some level, want to just help other people. And that manifests in different ways depending on who you are, right? Like, whether it be, somebody who's like a life coach or relationship coach, or somebody who, has a bakery and brings people together over coffee and a Danish, it's like you're manifesting some good in the world. And I feel like most people want to do that. And I feel like, as long as you're being true to yourself, like, you're naturally going to move in that direction, I feel like.
Well, I'm going to agree with you to this extent.
Sure.
I wanted to be a professional basketball player. It doesn't mean that I could do it.
Sorry, I just laughed at you.
No, it's laughable. But that's my point.
Yeah.
The fact that I want it, there's a large gap between thinking and saying that you want something and actually being committed to doing it.
Putting in the work.
So it's all about the work. So wanting isn't enough.
Well, plus there's the, you didn't maybe have the height to be a basketball player. Like, there's genetic limitations on all that, too.
I didn't have the height. I didn't have the athletic ability. I didn't have any of it.
Well,
I just wanted it.
Fair enough. But even we were talking about earlier before we went live about people with the wine, right?
Yeah.
Like, people tasting wine, and most people who taste a $75 or more dollar bottle of wine can't really taste the difference between that and the $30 counterpart, right?
Or maybe they can taste the difference but don't appreciate why one bottle is better than another, and often might like the more expensive bottle less than the less expensive bottle. And so it's just people, when we were in the restaurant business, we wanted to have wine that people liked to drink. And there are plenty of bottles of wine that you can buy in the world today that aren't that expensive. And so we weren't about a name. We were about, did people like it, and could they fit it in their budget, even in a fine dining restaurant? And the point is, fit within who you are and what you like. You don't need to think, well, what would a wine connoisseur say if I chose that wine? It's irrelevant. Do you like it? Drink it.
Yeah, it goes back to that, ego posturing type of thing. People like to be seen drinking these $75 bottle of wine. It's like, come on.
Or 175 or 750. The point is, it's okay whether you want the $10 bottle of wine or the $175 bottle of wine. It doesn't change who you are.
Yeah.
It only changes who you are if you buy the bottle that isn't you.
Yeah. Then you're fighting yourself.
Yeah.
And that creates some tension, I might imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's a minor tension. It's not like fighting a war you shouldn't be in.
Well, if that's the extent of it, then
yes.
The only problem you have is you order the wrong bottle of wine because you're worried about what other people think of you, then that's probably okay. But something tells me that if you're doing that, there might be something else going on.
Maybe.
Interesting. Scratch Bakehouse. What, moving into a new location, what do you envision the future being like in the next couple of years for the Scratch Bakehouse?
Well, you know, it's the reason that I wanted to start a bakery when I first did
Mm-hmm.
a couple years ago was the enormously important experience I had as a kid growing up. My family, like a lot of Jewish families, lived on the east side of Syracuse for a host of reasons. And there
I'll
was
take
a
your word for
bakery called Snowflake Bakery, who many people still remember fondly. And every Sunday, we would go to the butcher, the deli, the grocery store, the fishmonger, and to the Snowflake. And it would be a family thing. And then we would go home and we would eat our Sunday meal together. And it was so important to me as a kid. And so I thought bakery is a great opportunity. Not an Italian bakery, not a Jewish bakery, not an ex-bakery, but just a bakery that's part of the neighborhood, that makes you feel like you are part of it.
Right.
And this is my goal for the Scratch Bakehouse. We do a form of bread that really isn't done in upstate New York. We have a great following very early in our lifetime by Middle Eastern and Central and Eastern European cultures. Because of them, I've taken to calling it real bread. It's brown bread. It's not white bread.
What does that mean?
It means the flour is brown, and you look at it, and the bread is dark brown, and sometimes it's really dark brown, and it's not because it's burnt.
It's not like whole wheat versus white though, right? It's different
Well,
than that.
all of our breads are organic. All of our breads are multi-grain. All of our breads are made with brown flour.
Okay.
And the interesting anomaly is they're high in gluten, which causes a caramelization to happen, which enhances the brown color. But the process, because every loaf of bread from start to finish is 72 hours, the gluten is processed out so that we've had easily a 95% success rate with gluten-sensitive people being able to eat our bread, which is true of other artisan breads. It's not just us.
Yeah.
But here we have, because of the whole process, which includes sourdough leavening, doesn't mean it tastes like San Francisco sourdough, but it's part of the process. We've taken all the opportunities that we can with bread to make it both nutritious and delicious. So it has an actual flavor.
Right.
And it's not just something that you put meat in between to make a sandwich. It enhances what you do with it, whether it's toast or bread or sopping up sauces or whatever it is. So we want to, and all of our pastries, we have French and American pastries as well, made in some form or another with this, almost all of them made with the same flour. So we want to be the best we can be in what we do. Other bakeries do what they do, and they're great. But the point is, there's not just one great way to be.
Yeah.
There's not one way to be great. There's not just one bread. There's not just one donut. There's whatever it is. One of the things that I love about what's happening in Syracuse today is that there's so many new opportunities to try new things that aren't just the same old thing.
Right.
That I continue to want to be part of that evolution of Syracuse with our bakery products.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that there's so many different things. Like, I don't know if you browse around at the market ever, but there's a vendor there called Anything But Beer.
Sure.
And that you familiar with them?
I'm friends with them. As a matter of
Oh,
fact,
yeah?
when I closed the restaurant, I invited them over to help them out to get some of their smalls and other equipment to get their new facility started.
Nice.
Yeah, they're great people. What they're doing is unbelievable.
It's just something I've never heard of before.
Well,
like, talk about trying something new.
And people embrace them immediately because of who they are and what they stand for,
Right.
and how good their product is.
Yeah.
And so even if you're even if you're a person who wants alcoholic beer as opposed to non-alcoholic
Right.
beer, then you're still going to love their product. And I can't wait for them to open up because I think people are going to love what they're doing.
So they're opening up a
They're
storefront.
opening up their own bricks and mortar tasting, and it's going to have some food and.
Okay, cool.
And they're very serious. They're fun people, but they're very serious about what they do, and those are the kind of people I like the best.
They don't screw around when it comes to business.
Yeah,
they do what they do. I like that. No, you got to be serious about what
you
do.
They're 1,000% invested in creating an experience in Syracuse that can't be duplicated.
Yeah. I mean, in a world, or especially Syracuse, think about how many breweries have been popping up, right? Like, to have something, sort of like a brewery, but not anything but beer, quite literally in the title, right? In the title.
But everybody should be looking out for their opening. They're on Washington and Salina,
okay,
on the corner there, and you're going to love it.
All right, I'll check it out. Interesting. Yeah, it's funny. I grew up in Binghamton, Vestal, and went to school in Oswego. And so I ended up here because of my girlfriend, now fiance. And all of her friends, whenever I meet them, no, I shouldn't say all of them, blanket all of her friends like that. But I hear a lot of people from Syracuse that are like, Syracuse and nothing's going on in Syracuse, I'm getting the hell out of here. Like,
not
it's the
true
attitude.
anymore.
A lot of people say that.
Syracuse has turned the corner.
It seems like it.
No,
it really does.
It doesn't seem like it. It is. It's
Yeah.
happened. Now, are we all the way there? No.
Of course not.
But in the last 3 years, there has been a major shift in what's going on in Syracuse and the quality of what's going on and the differentiation that's going on. The new city market that's going to hopefully be opened, I think, in the fall of next year, in the empty lot right behind Hotel Syracuse, which is going to be a collection of first-time business owners.
Okay.
And ethnic and awesome ethnicities of business owners. It's being supported by I'm not sure, I'm going to say the the new Welsh Allen Foundation.
Okay.
I'm not sure I know the particular name of it, but that's the
Grain
source.
of salt.
And maybe it's just Allen, and if it is, I apologize. But this is an indication of this is what happens in a quote real city.
Right.
Chances are taken, money is invested, different segments. We have an incredible cultural and ethnic variety in Syracuse that is now being celebrated, and it's now being welcomed with open arms. And this is part of what's going to make Syracuse reach its potential as a great city.
Make Syracuse great again. I had to throw that in there.
I won't say those words.
Yeah, I feel like since I've been in Syracuse, it definitely seems like the everything's shifted a little bit, in that, I don't know, there's just, again, I have the perspective of coming from Binghamton and Oswego. There's just so much more opportunity here than those places. And what else have you noticed in the last 3 years? I didn't even know about the city market. I didn't even heard of that.
Well, they spent the last year cultivating and having a really competition to name the 8. I think it's fair to say ethnically minority operators, and they just announced them today, I think, or
Okay.
yesterday. The market was announced about first time 6 months ago. The location is being prepared now for construction, I think, in the spring to open in next fall. And it's just another thing. I mean, there are 15 or more new restaurants in downtown in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot, maybe too many for some people, but and they haven't even touch the base of the lakefront development,
Yeah.
which is going to be a whole nother thing. There are going to be more businesses and more restaurants and more facilities and more offices and much more residential around Onondaga Lake, which is really quite beautiful. And,
Sure is.
and so every city has seized, probably starting 20 years ago, to establish a lakefront existence. Syracuse was way behind the curve. Of course, it helps now that the lake is marginally clean.
Yeah, they've been cleaning it up.
So, and we now have a mayor who has a vision.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a 1-year vision or a 2-year vision. We're fortunate to have a mayor who has a vision that says we need to know where we want to be in 15 years or 20 years.
Right.
And we have to start working today to be there. And you see announcements coming out of the mayor's office on a regular basis to show a pathway towards that. And look, you're going to have a massive transportation hub here, because there has to be a massive transportation hub to service the Amazon facility that's going
Right.
to be here. And, we're one of 13 cities that has that now, or is going to have it. It's important. We wouldn't have had that before. And so every day we have a great tech center. The Center State CEO, who is our Chamber of Commerce in essence, has done fantastic things. We're the hub for drone development.
Drone capital of the world, right?
Yeah, but not just that. That's the most visible thing. But so Syracuse University, when I was a professor there full time, I was in the entrepreneurship department in the management school. And one of the things that I was tasked with was to make entrepreneurship, or not to make it, but to help facilitate it being a campus-wide reality.
Yeah.
And year in and year out now, Syracuse University is in the very top echelon of the most entrepreneurial universities in the United States.
I didn't know that.
And so you see all these indicia, the museum, the resurrection of the symphony through Symphoria, through the hard work and the dedication and I think the charity almost of the musicians that are dedicated to their life of music, and to a viable opera society. I mean, we're a real city. To Syracuse Stage, we have, in some form or another, a very high quality entity of every type of thing you'd want to see in a city that you live in a place where it's one of the least expensive housing markets in the United States. Now, real estate taxes are pretty high, and we still have to do something about that. But and we're a regional medical center, and we have 4 really good academic, probably more. I don't mean to leave anybody out, but really,
Brian Stratton is so upset right now.
Well, I taught paralegals at Bryant and Stratton 25 years ago.
No kidding.
Because they were ahead of the curve, and I think they probably still are to some extent. So, in any event, we have all this, and you know what? From the time that I grew up here, the weather has changed dramatically.
You don't say.
We actually have 4 seasons. Now, maybe it's too cold and the winter's too long, or there's too much snow, and maybe we don't get enough sun all the time, but if any of you out there are bike riders, I challenge you to find, if you take out the mountain ranges of Europe, I challenge you to find much better on-the-road bike riding experiences than you can find in Onondaga and Madison counties. And we're just enriched with having had the glaciers move through Syracuse and create beautiful topography.
Yeah.
And so, if you can tell, I mean, I live here because I choose to live here.
Yeah.
I could have lived anywhere in the world, and I have no interest in leaving here. I think it has everything.
Yeah. It definitely you make a very strong argument, my friend. Between the geography and all the things that are happening with the city and the innovation and all the entrepreneurship and just, I don't know, it just seems like it's definitely on the rise.
And podcasts.
Look at what we're going on. What's going on right here.
No, it's all going on. We have people who are dedicated to this community. We have lots of groups, lots of podcasters, and the We Believe in Syracuse's and CNY Eats, and the number of things that are going on, the dinners that are put on by people who are really interested in promoting good food and quality food and good eating in Syracuse, and the restaurants that are trying to work to raise to the highest level, and the fun bars, the speakeasies, and actually the Stoop was the first speakeasy in Syracuse, modern speakeasy.
I was going to say, what exactly is a speakeasy in 2020?
Oh, in 2020? Well, it's the same thing that they started in the Prohibition because they were a necessity.
Right.
You had to keep the police out of shutting you down by having a place that nobody knew was selling alcohol.
Right.
Well, now they've taken the fun part of that, which is the mystery. And it's a little bit of hype and a little bit of... but it's just a fun place that has a little bit of drama about getting in or finding it or walking into it. And many of which adopt a sort of a 1920s or 30s prohibition type attitude and decor, and they're fun places.
Yeah.
That's what they are, is they're fun places.
There's a place in Binghamton, and I don't even know the name of it. It's right in downtown Binghamton. Not that it's big, but it's you walk through these doors, and they look very unsuspecting, I believe. And I think it's just bookcases in front of you. But then you open the bookcase, and it's like a distillery, I think.
Sure. Well,
Very
one of the
cool.
first best ones in New York City, you walked in through a telephone booth.
Oh, really?
A telephone booth that was in a pizza shop.
That's funny.
And you had to dial the right number.
Oh, so you
And
needed
that-
the code, too.
You needed the code. And that was really secret. It wasn't like, we're secret, but if you do the right thing, you can call us up and get it. It was really hard to get.
No, is this modern times, or is this during the
No,
Prohibition?
this was in the recent. So we opened the Stoop in 1994. This was in the late 90s.
Okay. That's cool, though.
Yeah. So it's all good.
Yeah, it is all good. There's so much good, right?
There is.
It's just got to look for it. It's so funny how you mentioned, like, the weather, too. And, of course, the weather's changing and whatever, but, just people complain about the weather in Syracuse all the time, right? The snow. But I think in the Northeast, generally, right, we all get hit with snow pretty hard. I think it makes you tougher. I think it's a good thing. Like, can you imagine living in LA, like your daughter, and, never having to scrape off your windshield ever? Like,
No.
just living in that convenience.
No, I could not.
It
I
makes
could
you a
not.
little bit tougher,
I could not.
You're just coddled over there.
But, it used to be colder and there used to be more snow.
Right.
I don't know if that's supportable by the data, but maybe it's just a kid's memory. But
We can leave that for another
the
time.
thing that's beautiful today is that clothing is so good. It's not hard to be outside in the winter in Syracuse.
It's true.
The clothing is warm and it's light, and it's more and more affordable day by day. But certainly if you live here, then it's much better if you choose to be an ice skater or a snowshoer or a skier or a tobogganer or something, or just a hiker who doesn't mind dressing for the weather.
Snowshoes.
snowshoeing is a great thing.
Cross country skiing. You got plenty
Cross-country
of.
skiing, and you can do that in so many places for free in
Yeah.
Syracuse, or for a nominal in some of the state parks that have groomed trails for $10 for the season or whatever it is. So, and I defy people. Summer in Syracuse is gorgeous. The weather's beautiful.
It's wonderful.
I won't go anywhere in the summer. I love being here.
It is wonderful. My folks have a place in Bridgeport on Oneida Lake.
Yeah.
And I grew up, at least in high school, coming up here like every weekend. I'd work in Binghamton. You know, like during the summer, I'd work on the weekend or during the week, and then on the weekends, come up and spend the day on the lake. It was a weekend on the lake. It was beautiful. It's gorgeous here. It really is. And I know the snow is like inconvenient stuff, but like you mentioned, the technology as far as clothing and all that, you can get a remote start on your car if you want, and you could defrost that windshield from the comfort of your home if you really want to. But
and we're the
snow's so beautiful
we're the home
too.
of Jeep all-wheel drive.
Are we?
I mean, look around you. See how many SUVs or Jeeps.
Yeah.
So you can or Subarus. I mean, you can buy cars that are fine in the snow and ice. It's whether they're used or new, you can buy them.
It's excellent. So you were a teacher at, and not to change gears here. You were a teacher at SU for a while.
Well, for many years, I would teach. I was an adjunct at the law school one semester, an adjunct at the management school the opposite semester. And then I was given the opportunity to be appointed as the first Whitman Professor of Entrepreneurial Practice, which I grabbed. I was so grateful for the opportunity.
I bet.
And I loved what it entailed. And we did a lot of wonderful things, started a creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship learning community at Syracuse University, which took up one whole floor at Del Plain Hall, which is still there. And every year it's producing college student devised new businesses. And we had the Near Southwest Community Initiative, which resulted in the incubator that's in the building that Duncan Bright was kind enough to donate to that purpose. And we started some grassroots new businesses on the Southwest side. And there's boot camps, and there's WISE, the women's initiative for entrepreneurship that was created during that period of time that's so influential nationwide now, and has a home, I believe, unless it's moved, but I think its home now is in the Center State CEO offices, and I'm sorry if I'm wrong about that, but that was created during that period of time where entrepreneurship was a key initiative for Syracuse University as a whole, and certainly for the Whitman School. It's known for it now. And so I believe, during the period of our bad economy, the life jacket for our economy was entrepreneurship.
100%.
It was a number of people who didn't have a choice maybe, but saw it as the time to do something on their own, to start their own business. And it's American. This country was built on the back of immigrants. This country is made great by immigration and immigrants.
100%.
These people who have come over the last 130 years are people who desired to have a better life, to have freedom, to have consistency of government that would protect their rights, and that would give them the opportunity to do whatever they could or wanted to do with their lives. And there just aren't that many places left.
It's true.
And we should never give up all the things that make it viable for that to happen.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's funny how, like, we were just talking about the weather and how, people like to complain about the weather. Everyone always sees the bad part of things, right? Like, of course, are there problems? Yes, of course. Nothing's gonna be perfect. It's okay. But all in all, we're doing pretty damn good. Like, we have.
You mean in Syracuse or in general?
In general. No. It's just talking about, immigrants and everything, like coming over here and being able to have that freedom to practice your trade and, speak your mind and do a podcast and say whatever goofy stuff you want to say. Like,
that used to be true until recently.
What's that?
All the things you just said.
What do you mean? How so?
It just isn't true anymore.
What part specifically?
Well, we're not a country that is open to immigration. We're not a country that's open to minorities. We're not a country that's open to the freedom of difference of thought. And we're not a country right now that's open to the justice of our basic constitutional tenets.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have blanketed it so generously. But I feel like it's so...
We have problems. We've had problems for a long time. They're not just the last 3 years. Our educational system needs to be fixed. For the United States not to be in the top 60 countries for education is inexcusable. The fact that we don't, all the things that the politicians could do, whether with the defense budget or taxes, and I don't mean taxing the poor and the middle class more, but in the tax structure, to improve education, to honor our teachers, to make education important again, and not make it judged just by standardized testing that is socially unequal. I say socially, it could be ethnically unequal as well, but I'm going to say socially unequal, socioeconomically unequal. And
it's a business.
There are things we have to do that are better. And I'm not sure that I have any of the answers, let alone all of them. But this is a country that still has all of the essentials to be the best country in the world.
Yeah, that's more what I was getting at. The education thing is really interesting with the cost being so high now. As somebody with a background in entrepreneurship, and still an entrepreneur, of course, and also a professor, what's your opinion on the entire education thing?
Well, there's a whole segment of the world that won't like what I have to say, but I mean, there are two things that it's pretty obvious to objective observers. And I'm not saying I believe in either of them, but they're pretty obvious to objective observers. Right. One is that college isn't for everybody. As a matter of fact, college is counterproductive to a large number of the people that go.
100%.
And the second thing is education, like all other well-run businesses, should be a meritocracy. And that means you can't pick a period of time, call it tenure, and then dispose of the obligation year after year to still be a great teacher.
Yeah.
We don't, even our universities today are less and less teaching institutions and more research institutions because they survive from the money they get from private industry to do research.
Right.
They don't survive. I mean, many universities will tell you that they're not interested in having professors who aren't tenure track, who are just teachers. They don't want them anymore. What they want...
That's what my fiance wants to do.
What they want instead is they want to take teachers, people who want to teach, and they want to make them adjuncts. And instead of paying them even a base professorial wage, they want to pay them $5,000 a semester to teach 2 courses.
Crazy.
But these are people who want to teach. They don't want to be tenure track. And so there are a million different problems. they're they're not all solvable completely, but they're all things that can be approached from different directions to assist them to be better.
Yeah. As far as it's so funny when I mean I was one of those people who went to college because I wasn't a loser and got to go to college, right? But I knew I didn't know what I wanted to do exactly. I was pretty sure I wanted to be an entrepreneur though, do something on my own. I didn't know how that would manifest, but I don't want to. I say that, but I don't want to take away the fact that college was a good growth experience for me, and that I went in a very immature person and came out a lot more mature. And I'm sure I would have gotten that growth experience in another way during those 4 years had I not gone. But it's funny now because I'm, paying my student debt and the entire ramifications of the whole thing, yet not using my degree. It's very interesting. And I was fortunate enough to have some help from my folks. I didn't have to finance the entire thing myself, but and I went to SUNY. I didn't go to SU, go to Villanova, go to one of these more prestigious schools and pay for it. But now, just thinking about all the debt and like, if I had a student loan payment that was as much as my rent payment, which is a reality for some people that they're going to be paying for a long, long time. Like that is just, and to not use the degree, it's crazy. It is crazy.
It is. There are a lot of things to do in life that are useful.
Yeah.
And I don't for a minute disregard that there is a socialization maturation that's available in college.
Yes.
The number of things that I learned or that I helped other people to learn in college, socially or socioeconomically, were tremendous, but maybe not necessary. And some part of me thinks that we have to get back to the necessary first. It's like when you have a business, are you expense driven or revenue driven? Do you worry first about what things cost, or are you driven by how much you sell?
Right.
And there's a conflict. That's in essence. Well, college is nice. It probably could be nice for everybody if they didn't come out with debt. But is it necessary? And should we focus our secondary schools, our colleges and universities, our postdoctoral degrees in the right place so that we're doing what's necessary, not to deprive them, not to say somebody can't, but to make the options as attractive as they should be.
And societally acceptable.
Yes, that's what I mean by attractive.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big proponent of that. Because when I went to college, I was in the 60s, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I was a finance major at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. And I'm glad I got that finance education. I never used it as a finance person per se. And I went to law school because I didn't know what I wanted to do. But when I was in law school, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and it was perfect. I was lucky. But so I think, my younger daughter is out of college. She went to Syracuse University.
Okay.
And she's out of college now almost 4 years, and now she wants to get a master's.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Because now she has a better idea of what her life is like and what she needs in her life, and that's terrific. And, she's going to struggle. She was fortunate enough to get an academic scholarship at Syracuse. She's going to hope to do that too, but she's going to face the reality of having to work and get a student loan and all that stuff.
It's like scraping the ice off your windshield.
But you know what?
It makes you tougher.
My mother, God bless her, when I was 14, she got me a green card. She got me a job on a construction site with a friend of her family's.
Nice.
And she
when you
said...
were 15?
14.
14.
And she said, now, whatever you want for the rest of your life, you can buy. Well, there's a method to that madness.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I started my first business when I was 15, and I put myself through school.
Nice.
And my parents could have afforded to pay for school,
Right.
but they taught me the lesson. So we need to do more of that. Accountability is a big thing in life today that's missing in huge proportions in large places in the world.
Yeah, it's funny you say that about the job when you were 14. I got my first job when I was 15. Not quite that young. I don't think, and I think even 15, I don't think I was supposed to be working there. It was a friend of my dad's owned an ice cream store, and I scooped ice cream. But I loved ice cream, so it was cool. I got free ice cream. But
food always has a benefit.
Exactly. And I really valued that experience. Not all my friends had jobs in high school, but I always really valued that experience. And my dad always, one thing, if there's like one phrase my dad drilled into me when I was young, it was hard work pays off. And I think that's incredibly important. Just generally in life, like you need to work for the things. Like life doesn't just fall in your lap, right? Like you need to work for it.
Yeah, hard work doesn't guarantee that things fall in your lap.
True.
But it makes it more likely.
Yeah, exactly. Like you it's funny. I like having the debate about luck with people, whether luck exists or not. But really, you're improving your odds of being lucky, right?
Well,
like you're improving the odds by putting yourself out there that things are going to happen for you.
In every course I've ever taught, I teach what I call the principle of the why decision. And that's just 1,000 times a year you face a why intersection where you have to decide, do I go left or right?
Right.
I'm being, metaphorical there, I guess. And so do you impact whether you have good fortune? I won't call it luck. I'll call it good fortune. You do.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
you predict that you're going to have that good fortune by the decision you make? You can't. So, but if you understand that every decision you make has an impact on the rest of your life, then you can be accountable for making that decision. And it's in being accountable that you are more likely to find that you have better or more good luck than others.
It's so funny you use that word accountable. Right there where that foam square is, I had a sign, and I wish it was up now. It says you are accountable, and I have it on my nightstand, just because it's everything. Like, in going back to the lesson your parents taught you by here, you're going to pay for everything else for the rest of your life, because like that was empowering.
By the way, that wasn't 100% true, but it was
still got
pretty
dinner?
true. Yeah, I got a lot of dinners.
That's important. No, it's huge though. Like it's not. It is burdening you, yes, with responsibility, but that responsibility comes with freedom. Like the two go hand in hand, and I think people forget that. And it's funny how
it's the price you pay for freedom.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Right. If you are not accountable, you do not have freedom.
Right.
Because if you're not accountable to yourself, you're accountable to somebody else, and therefore you have deprived yourself of your freedom.
Yes.
By definition.
I like that. That's a better way to phrase it. I have my fiance works in Eggers Hall at SU, and she works in a research. You got to get out of here. I want to be respectful of your time.
A little bit.
Okay. we'll wrap this up. She works in a research center. I think it's called the Learner Center. And they do Healthy Monday campaigns, Meatless Monday, all these things. Move It Monday, whatever. But it's a research center, so it's very focused on research and policy and how that impacts, people downstream, of course. And that's obviously immensely important. And I have this discussion with her sometimes that, you are not just the product of the policy that is imposed upon you. You are an individual, and you have the power to make those decisions at those Ys every day of your life, and you can improve your life by making the right decisions. Granted, some people have, some people are dealt a harder or worse hand than others, but everyone is still dealt 24 hours in a day, and you can choose to do with that what you will, and you can make the best of it, or you can play victim, fall just to your circumstances and say, I got dealt a shit hand, this sucks, and really just kind of throw in the towel as a result. And it's unfortunate.
If you allow yourself to be a victim, you give up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Any control over your life.
Exactly. And isn't that scary? But it's so... I'm getting fuzzy here on the connection. You were talking about the job you had when you were younger. Do you think that in today's world, where we're all very sensitive to how other people feel and these kinds of things...
I don't think we're all very sensitive about how other people feel. Maybe all the people or you associate with are... But certainly not all.
I try not to.
But certainly all of the people are not sensitive to other people's plight.
Let me put it like this. All the loudest people on Twitter are very sensitive to how other people feel and are very quick to... oh, geez, I'm losing my train of thought here. Just... how do I phrase this? Do you feel like we're soft? as a society? Do you feel like we're getting too sensitive to each other's feelings, where we don't want mom to hand 14-year-old son the green card and say, you have a job now, you can pay for things, because that's a form of child abuse in some way? Like, do you think we're getting a little...
It is. First of all, it's not child abuse, but I understand.
Agreed, 100%.
But I understand your question. I believe that there is a very difficult push-pull between political correctness and the concept of accountability and honesty. Being from a background that has, for as long as there's been civilization, has been an endangered species in this world, that there has never been a time in this world when there wasn't at least one major group of people swearing to wipe my people off the face of the earth. I'm very sensitive to all of the key words and the socially inept words and the ignorance about that fact and all the things that go with it, historically and today. And yet I still feel that sometimes we go overboard. We go too far looking for that correctness, because it is a substitute for people listening to context. We've given up listening to context, because everything is a 5-second soundbite. Everything is a 5-second screen. Everything, the number of people who I taught in college who were incapable of writing a sentence or a paragraph was astounding, because it's not required anymore. I mean, I didn't go to parochial school, but I had a 6th grade teacher who used to walk around the classroom with a ruler while she taught us how to diagram sentences, and used to walk home with a sore hand if you didn't do your work. Well, do I think that kind of thing is abusive? Personally, I do not. Do I think a parent choosing between spanking or not spanking their kid as punishment is abusive? I do not. There's a difference between spanking and assaulting.
Yes.
And so, but we've lost context. We've lost degree. Everything is black or white. That's a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
But
you'll have to come back on.
So I know exactly what you're saying. I don't know if it's a matter of being soft. It's a matter of being lazy.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
Lazy thinkers.
Or not thinking at all.
Fair.
You know,
Yeah.
either you're okay with white supremacists in the world or you're not. Now, that's an easy one. But how about the right of Mormons to live their life the way they want to live it within their own community? Well, it's not as easy a question.
I don't have context, so I shouldn't jump to an answer.
Well, all I'm saying is there are certain things that are appalling to me, that would be appalling to me in my life, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Yeah.
That's their world. They have a right to be in their world. They have the right to live, whether it's any extreme conservative group of people. You know, people would be amazed that, you know, the non-leftist or rightist Muslims or Jews in the world get along perfectly.
I bet.
Because their religions are almost identical. It's at the outer fringes that it doesn't work.
The extremists.
And so these are hard questions in the world today. You know, do we support somebody who has this belief and not this belief, even though his overall beliefs are really good, or his or her are really good? Well, these are hard questions today because nobody has the time to explain anything. Nobody takes the time, not nobody, that's an oversimplification, but people just don't, they want to know, they want to get to the answer. What's the answer? Yes or no?
5-second soundbite.
And people, not good for me.
No.
Because I like to understand things.
It's not good for anybody, though.
Well,
and the problem is, like, and I'm glad you mentioned that 5-second soundbite thing, though, because that's, again, we talked about, we enjoy being part of the human race because humans are interesting. That's one reason I started doing this podcast. And what you just said about the 5-second soundbite thing is number 2, because I think not enough discussion is had, like this kind of discussion. And we really do, in order to move the needle forward and progress towards a better society for everyone, need to be open and have these conversations about controversial topics. Because, you know, it's, if you just shut the door and don't invite any discussion at all, then that's when people jump to conclusions, and this whole thing of, you know, I mentioned the people on Twitter, which very much the extremists you referenced as well.
Some are.
Just yeah, not everyone on Twitter. It's a good point, but it's I think it's important. Communication is important. Open lines of communication is important.
yeah. And, you know, there are about 5 people on Twitter that I follow that I'm willing to take the time to read what they say. And there are some people who I'll always read, and there are some people, if they come on the radio, I have to turn the radio off because I can't listen to them spew ugliness or indignation about things that they're ignorant about, or that they choose to be ignorant about, or that they don't even know that they're ignorant about it. And it's hard. You know, I applaud the ACLU because they will stand up for anyone who needs to have assistance in preserving the right of free thought and speech. Even though I might hate that free thought and speech, still it's so necessary.
It is.
And we have no room for that anymore.
Yeah.
We have no room for the faith that if we let people we don't agree with speak, they will screw themselves in the long term because you'll know who they are.
Oh, yeah.
And if they don't, and otherwise, if you agree with them, great, then that's who you are.
Yeah.
But that's where we want to be as a country, as a nation, as a people. we want to have free discourse because not all Democrats are bad, not all Republicans are bad, not all moderates or, people who are on the right or the left have some good ideas.
100%.
Is medical insurance for all a good thing? In theory, it is. Can you go from what we have to that in one step? We can't. And it doesn't mean that we don't think the people espousing it are good and thoughtful and smart. Maybe we just don't agree with the way they're going to get there. That happens 1,000 times a day, and it's all about context.
It's crazy. It's funny. We have the right to free speech, right? But you don't have the right to not be offended by other people. But it seems like people, something offends somebody, and then it creates a problem, right? But that's part of free speech.
It is. You can't. It's why the ACLU has been representing white supremacists and Nazis, and since the day that the ACLU started, the first big case to protect freedom of speech for white supremacists, who did they put on it? They put a Jewish person to represent the person, to show what their belief was in the freedom of speech, how important it is for everybody. But violent speech that incites crime, there's a limit.
Yes.
There's a line. And nobody says that free speech can be absolute.
Right.
It can be large and overwhelmingly important. But if it incites crime intentionally, and I know that you start getting vague when you say intentionally, and I recognize that. But if it's clear or plain to anyone that the purpose of the speech is to incite specific crime, I don't think it's protected anymore, even though I support the Constitution as much as anybody could.
Yeah.
I believe in it. But we have to understand the accountability of boundaries and the accountability of individual behavior. And what we know today is that political correctness is not a substitute for accountability.
No, absolutely
and
not.
It never will be.
No.
So.
Well, I think, and I don't remember the context, but the beginning of this, one word you used was intention, and I think that word is immensely important. Intentionality. When it comes to this entire thing.
It is.
It's huge.
But it can be dangerous trying to, I'm an independent politically.
Okay.
And it can be dangerous when you try to read into somebody's intention.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big debate. What did Trump intend in his mind to do? And the Republicans have been very good to talk about, it could have been this, it could have been that. And the Democrats have been tried to be very good about saying, well, look at the context. You can't interpret it that way, but of course you can interpret it any way you want. So there are fuzzy areas, and we have to allow the fuzzy areas to exist until they become criminal.
Yes. And in order to determine those things, you have to discuss them, right?
Right. And a discussion requires a person speaking and another person listening. That's what we're not good at anymore.
No. Well, especially, just people shouting over each other in presidential debates, and it's like...
So for the 3 people listening to this podcast that's gone on ad infinitum for probably too long, I apologize for being long-winded.
No, you're fine. We can wrap this up.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming on. If you're up for another discussion, I really did enjoy this. You're welcome back on anytime.
Thank you.
Of course. And